Aloha mai kako, Belina. O Kamalani Milia o ko Ikano'eau de la Cruz ko'u inoa. I'm a junior at Waiākea High and a part of this year's hula class. Here in Hawaii, we treat each other as family, and one of the many things we share is the language of hula. Hula has been a pillar in the Hawaiian culture dating back to the roots of Hawaiian gods and goddesses. It is a bridge that connects our people to their kupuna, the elders and the ancestors, and the aina, the land we live upon. It is held dearly by the people of Hawaii, but it means something different to everyone. I interviewed 4 people to see the difference in how hula has affected different generations and how important each aspect of the Hawaiian culture is to them.
Aloha, my name is Ka'oiwi Kapo Kalani Jiang. I am a 9th grader at Kamehameha Schools, Hawaii, and I am 14 years old.
Aloha everybody, my name is Kailu Tsuganko. I am 15 years old and I am in 11th grade at Kamehameha Schools, Hawaii.
Aloha, my name is Kapuanani Anela Kavevehi. A lot of people call me Kumu Kapua, Kumu Kapuanani, but I mostly go by Kumu. I am a secondary teacher. I teach Hawaiian language, Olo No Hawai'i. I have been a teacher teaching Olo No Hawai'i for 14 years. I was at a charter school for 12 years, and this is my 2nd year here at Waiākea High School.
Aloha. Ovao o Pualani Johnson, Jacqueline Pualani Johnson. I was a teacher at the University of Hawaii for 38 years in the Performing Arts Department.
Just like how every person in the world is different, each culture has different attributes that make them unique. I asked them what they believed made the Hawaiian culture different from other groups. Here are the responses from Ka'oiwi and Kaiulu.
So I believe that Hawaiian culture is different from other groups because of their viewpoints. For example, in Western culture, when they came over, they would look at the land and our resources as a way of technology. They would look at our resources and our land as a scientific point.
I think one thing that puts Hawaii and Hawaiians apart from any other of the groups in the world is that Hawaiians didn't really have that imperialistic mindset where they were just trying to claim whenever they could. They were able to not claim, but they were able to find and inhabit the Hawaiian Islands, and then they just called that their home.
But I know that our kupuna did not look at our land and resources like that. They looked at our land and resources as a way to spiritually connect to our akua, spiritually connect to our kupuna and the lives before them. I know they used the land in order to survive off of it, and it connected them to a lot of the past events, the historical points. It connected them to their language. For example, a lot of the mountains are named after someone, named after something. That is why I believe that our Hawaiian culture is different than any other culture.
They didn't really need to expand some more. Obviously, some parts of Hawaiian culture they split off and they went down to New Zealand, Aotearoa, and they went to Rapa Nui, they went to all Samoa, all the Polynesian people. So there's that connection within Polynesia and even Melanesia and Micronesia. But I think when it comes to other cultures in the world, we didn't have that grab, get, and keep on grabbing kind of mindset. We kind of just stayed where we were able to build our culture and build our community from there.
Over time, knowledge of the Hawaiian culture has been lost through generations. I asked everyone what they believed was one thing that everyone should learn about the Hawaiian culture. Here are the responses from Kumu Kapua and Auntie Pua.
For me, I think it's the language, especially pronunciation. So much people, especially local people, butcher words. You have to be able to represent where you come from. You have to be able to say the street names, say the kings and queens, say the name places like Lili'uo Kalani Park, for example. Plenty of people mispronounce that, which kind of drives me crazy. But I think from small child time, it should be the pronunciation, the different vowels, the diphthongs. You know how you have two different vowels next to each other and how it creates the AO sound is ow, AU sound is ow, the AE sound I, AI sound is I, and how you say the different vowels as opposed to the English vowels. To me, that's something very important.
I've already mentioned the language, and I want to reiterate that I think that is the answer. If people can understand the language, it imparts also a vision, a sense of how to deal with natural elements, with each other, with the structures of our society, family, our dedication to work, to sustaining what we understand as Hawaiian culture that defines us. I think the language is the window, better yet a door, because we can cross into it and become full of this knowledge that connects us to the heritage, but also serves as a way to live today and then drives us into the future about how we want to strive to instill that sense of Hawaiianness, if that word can be used, that mea Hawai'i, the loina Hawai'i in each and every one of us.
Another important thing is learning the language through song. You learn, especially at a young age, you learn a language or you learn pronunciation faster through song. Things stick in your head through songs. And so I think that's another thing that people should learn. So not only our old style songs like our olis, our kahikos, but also more modernized, our more awana songs, just anything in general. And then learn all of our like Hawaii Pono'i, all the 3 verses, all of those things I feel is important. Being able to pronounce stuff, being able to be proud who you are, where you come from.
It is an outlook that is captured in words, both in the poetic way that Hawaiian is spoken, but also in the everyday way that Hawaiian is spoken. I think of Olo No because those thousands of wise sayings really address how to live, how we relate, who we should value, what things we should value, what it means to be part of a community. So if all of that is there for us to access, the language be the way to access it.
More recently, society has been learning and schools have been teaching more about the history of the Hawaiian Islands. I asked everyone if they believe that the youth here in Hawaii have a good sense of the Hawaiian culture. Here are the responses from Kai'ulu and Auntie Pua.
Because of the Hawaiian Renaissance that happened in the, early 80s, and the fact that the language is coming back, there's a sense of being proud to have Hawaiian heritage. There's a sense that there's a way to contribute to society in group settings, in working together, in how we value family. That keeps coming up because that is so evident today since we had the Hawaiian Renaissance, and young people are surrounded by this. At every turn, there are uses of the language and of Hawaiian ways of thinking that are accessible.
I think that youth in Hawaii are exposed to some extent, whether it be through schooling, whether it be through home life, whether it be through just experiences in the real world. Like I can say, Waiākea and Hilo High don't necessarily have full Hawaiian, but they try to incorporate a little bit to just connect the students with the culture. Whereas there's some schools, like Hawaiian charter schools, called Mekikaio, Navahi, where it's like totally Hawaiian. You learn all in Hawaiian. It's just, you learn hula, you learn all kinds of limu in Hawaiian, everything is in Hawaiian. And then those middle schools where it's like Western education and Hawaiian as much as possible.
There are things in the newspaper, there are things in the radio, of street signs, of everything that gives you a sense of connection to the place, to the aina, is present. So young people growing up in Hawaii today are not separated out from that. They're influenced by it. They can utilize it in their own transactions with their friends. If you're pili, close to somebody, what does that mean in terms of being Hawaiian? How do you kako'o, kikahi one another? All of those thoughts are there, and we often hear people using Hawaiian phrases and Hawaiian ideas in our everyday life. So this is a good time to be a young person in Hawaii and be able to absorb that and make it part of your understanding of what it is to be part of this land.
And I think it also has to do with how you're raised in your home. Because if you're raised, say you're raised going to lo'i planting kalo, or maybe you're raised going out to the ocean during that, maybe you're raised, you went go hunting, it's still, certain aspects are Hawaiian culture. It's still perpetuating the culture through the family line. Yeah, I think it really just depends on how you're raised and if your family was exposed to that and if you got it through your schooling.
Just like I previously mentioned, hula means something different to everyone. I asked Ka'o'iwi and Kumu Kapua what hula meant to them.
Hula is such a big thing in my life. It has been pretty much my life. Hula is a way to communicate with your kupuna, not just talking to them. It's more of telling their stories and what they went through. It's a way to connect to our akua in our Hawaiian culture and just to share emotion and stories that revolve around our Hawaiian culture.
I'm 38 and I've been dancing since I was 5. So I've been dancing for 33 years. So it's a very big part of my life. I have been the alaka'i since I was in my early double-digit ages. I don't know what, 12, 13, in my early teens. And I have been the alaka'i ever since. So that is something I'm proud of because I'm able to help my kumu, which is also my auntie, she's my ohana. I'm able to help her teach our new generations. And so that's something that I'm proud of because I'm able to pass on what I have learned. Hula is just my life. I love it. My body doesn't love it anymore because I'm getting older, but it's still there in my heart. And that is one thing to me too, like you can see how much people love hula when they dance it, because you can tell when people dance it from their heart. You can tell when people get lost in the song and they are just giving it their all. So that is something like I'm very passionate about. I really grasp it and I really like it's very close to my heart, and I feel that I am able to show that.
In our society, a lot of things have been Hollywoodized. One of the things that have gone through that adaptation is hula. I asked everybody what is one misconception about hula and how does that make you feel? Here are the responses from Ka'o'iwi and Auntie Pua.
One of the common misconceptions about hula that makes me feel very angry, sad, and just irritated is the stereotype of what hula dancers wear. A lot of people know that many have the stereotype. A lot of those who are uneducated that have just created this stereotype of what hula dancers wear is coconut bras, grass skirts, flower headbands.
This is an interesting thing because I was worried for a long time that because we have that marvelous Merry Monarch Festival that we were going to take hula away from everyday people. You know, all the garage parties and all the luau where everybody gets up and dance. I was concerned that people might say, oh, I'm not good enough because I'm not good enough to compete. But that hasn't happened. Hula is so much a part of people and who they are that they still feel the need to stand up, and it might be the Hapahauli Hula song, or it might be Ka'uluwehi o Kika. I mean, a number of different things that people know it's in their bones to share spontaneously. I'm very pleased that that's still part of who we are.
This makes me very irritated because as a hula dancer, I know it's so much more than that. Our costumes and our attire have a story to them. Whether if it's hand-pounded kapa or hand-dyed olena and our clothing, whether if it's stamped ourselves, or whether if we put in the hard work to make our hakule. All of these things just make me very sad and irritated that many are so uneducated. And that is why that I believe that we need to know about our history. We need to spread awareness about our history and what they actually were and what actually happened. We need to stop and educate others about the wrong stereotypes and what is actually going on and what we actually wore in hula.
And there's a lot of keiki who learn hula for like May Day and for other kinds of programs, or they're in a halau and they go way beyond just a singular event like May Day. And it's marvelous because it is out there. I remember many, many years ago directing a show about Maui conquering the sun, and it was a dramatic piece taken out to children in Parks and Recreation. And part of the movement from stories segment to another was the kaholo. We used the kaholo to travel. And there was someone who was in our group who was concerned that that was a misuse of hula. So she went to her hukumu, who happened to be Edith Kanakaole, and in a very gracious, very Hawaiian way, we were told by Edith Kanakaole that the hula is for everyone. That's a quote. And it made me feel like it was okay for me to utilize that part of my heritage in my work in the theater as well. And the kaholo was kept in as the movement from one segment to the next.
Stories in the Hawaiian culture can be told through mo'olelos or hula. I asked Ka'uiwi and Kai'ulu the meaning or importance of one of their favorite mo'olelos or hula.
So my favorite hula that I have danced, at least one of my favorite hula, is one that I actually danced recently of last year of October at the E Malama Maui Hula Festival. I love this hula so much. It was called Kalehuapua Keme'ehu. The importance of this hula is so significant to me because this hula challenged me so much.
It's a story of two sisters, Hina Hulu'ua, Hina Ikiahi. And they were given people, they were given two pu'u, two mountains, and their people were flourishing. There was plants everywhere, it was so abundant with everything. And then Vavi came, which is a famine, and their people were going hungry. The stream stopped flowing. So Hina Ikiahi, obviously fire, said, okay, saw her people dying, and said, okay, grab rocks, grab banana leaf, and I'm gonna lay down in the imu. You're gonna close me up in the imu, and in 3 days you'll see a cloud above the imu. And once you see that, open the imu and you'll get food. So the people, sad, obviously they're watching the chiefess go away. So they get the rocks, they get the banana leaf, she goes inside, closes it up. 3 days later, a cloud goes over the imu. They're like, okay, they open it up, there's pig, there's uwala, sweet potato, there's ulu, there's kalo, there's everything that they can ever dream about. They're eating, they're all full, they're content.
It got me down on my knees to do sets and sets of rows and back bends. And I love this hula so much because although it was the hardest that I have ever done yet, it challenged me and it put me into my potential that I could actually do it. And if I put that dedication and that hard work into my hula, and if I actually really love it and I put my dedication into it, that I can accomplish anything.
Her sister sees that. She's water, Hina Hulu'ua. And she's like, wait, if my sister could do that, I can do that for my people. She says, 3 days, we see the cloud, open me up, there'll be food. And so they do that, they come back, close her up. 3 days, no cloud. 4 days, no cloud. 5 days, no cloud. And then all of a sudden, they're like, wait, didn't you say 3 days? We should try to open it. All they see is ashes. And the moral of the story is pretty much just don't compare yourself to other people. We all have our own weaknesses. We all have our own strengths. So just play to your own strengths. Don't try to be other people. and yeah, just do what you can, and that's the best you can do. So yeah, that's one of my favorite stories.
I asked Auntie Pua and Kumu Kapua to speak of an Olelo No'eau that they feel has great importance. An Olelo No'eau is a Hawaiian proverb that has gone back many generations.
My absolute favorite is "A'ohe paukaiki ka halau ho'okahi." One can learn from many sources. It's been significant in my life because it has to do with what I did as my life, the theater. It's a collaborative art. It's never just a single person creating this product for the stage. It's always a group of people whose mana'o has to come together. Perhaps the one who puts the story together is singular, but then it has to be acted by someone. It has to be costumed, the lights have to be put on, it has to be on a stage, you've got sound considerations. All of that is part of the theater experience. A director, a voice coach, there might be music and a musical director, all of that, dance, a choreographer. So that idea of one learning from many sources, when you have an artistic team, you feed off of each other and someone says something that triggers a response from another artistic person. So that Olelo No'eau has power and importance to me, and always has throughout my life.
My favorite Olelo No'eau is A'ai Kahula, Waiho ka hila hila makahale, which means when one wants to dance, bashfulness should be left at home. So basically, I have my older kids doing Olelo No'eaus, my second year and up. And so this is one of the Olelo No'eau I shared with them, I think back in first quarter. So I tell them, no be shame, just give them. Basically, opportunities, what I feel, opportunities and learning curves can be missed when you're shame. So this is something, the reason why this is one of my favorite Olelo No'eau is because I still I'm still working on it myself. I'm not one who talks a lot. I'm more of an observant person. And so I don't like to talk in big crowds. I have no problem dancing in big crowds because I'm not talking. I'm just sharing a story with something I'm comfortable doing, right? So me talking, I get kind of shame. I don't like to have so much attention on me. So I have to remind myself all the time, like I tell the kids not to be ashamed. I always tell the kids, just go for it, try it. You're never gonna know. You're gonna learn something, you might have an opportunity. So I have to always tell myself the same thing, and I have to kind of lead by example a lot of times, so they're not telling me, like, I'm putting words in my mouth. So yeah.
Just like everything else in the Hawaiian culture, hula has been through many changes. I asked Kumu Kapua and Kai'ulu how they felt about the evolution of hula.
Okay, evolution of hula. What I think about it is, I think hula is constantly evolving forever, and it's never gonna stop evolving. Obviously, we didn't have the instruments that we have now. Some of the instruments like the bass and all that kind of stuff, which comes with awana. But I think that it's great that hula is evolving, and I think that kahiko, awana obviously is a little bit newer, so it doesn't have as much history. But kahiko definitely is. You can see where you're coming from, and you can see your past, you can see your history. But we're in history right now, so maybe 20, 30, even 200 years from now, they'll be looking at our mo'olelo, at our hula that we make today as ancient history. Oh, so long ago, that was so long. And I think that's great. I think it's constantly that we're making hulas and we're evolving to our times and creating new instruments, and we're we're just making new hula is awesome. I think it's brilliant. But I think that we need to not forget where we come from. Make sure we sing and dance those old songs, because then they're not lost. And I think being able to make music now, make hulas now, and also experience and dance hulas from way back is very important. And I think we're only gonna evolve even more from here. So Yeah.
How and what do you feel about the evolution of hula? The evolution of hula, very, very different. It started off very, it was more prohibited. It was more kapu. It was more sexual, more hula ma'is. And then it kind of transformed into being something like more touristy. Like during the 50s, it was like a tourist attraction with all those cellophane skirts. And then now it's kind of going backwards where people are taking it more seriously. People are bringing back more of the olis, the old kahikos. That part I think is important because our new generations, me included, need to understand the history, the old songs, the background. Like for me personally though, my favorite is Awana. I like to dance modern songs. I prefer to dance Awana songs, more modern songs, over kahiko, over chants. I love to watch kahiko, but I'm not a fan of dancing yet.
Now that we have a good sense of how everyone feels about hula and the Hawaiian culture, I asked everyone where they saw hula going, what changes and impacts they make. Here is what everyone said.
So in the future, I see hula as something that might be just an entertainment. Something that will just entertain people and not actually know the history behind hula and the importance of in hula. It either go that way or a way that I really hope it will go. In Merry Monarch, we can see that there is only a Miss Aloha hula. I really hope in the future that there will be a Master Aloha hula. I feel that this would make such a big impact on the hula community because I know that only a few or a couple dozen of men do hula. A lot of our youth and our boys have lost the interest in hula, which is very heartbreaking. But I feel that this would just make such a spark in the hula community because it might inspire our youth and our men to step forward and try something new, try to do hula. Or if they're already skilled with hula, for them to advance their skills.
I really don't know where hula is going to be in the future. I think that Awana is here to stay. I think kahiko is here to stay because they're already such a big part of our culture. But I think, you never know. There could be some EDM, electronic hip-hop hula in the future. I don't know. I can't tell that. But I think it would have really big impacts because hula is made to express and tell where we come from, tell the characteristics of the limu that we're dancing about, talk about all these different mountains that we're talking about, talk about these different waterfalls, these different bodies of water, the ocean, everything that we're seeing, people are making hulas about and just writing history because when it's written down, when it's taught to people, it can be passed down through generations. And hula will be impacting us for the rest of our lives, for the rest of our lahui's lives, for the rest of our culture, just because it is our history, it's our story from the very beginning. That's how I think it's going to be impacted in the future.
Where do you see hula in the future? What impacts do you think it will make? Whoa. Okay, everybody has different styles. Like for example, kanes and vahines, completely different styles. There's a lot more kane kumu teachers who are kanes now. So a lot of their women dance more like kanes now. I've seen women who are now kumus, who their kumus were kanes, and then they turn around and tell us, your dancing is wrong. You're not supposed to wave your hands like that. But then that's the old-fashioned style. And some of like I'm taught by a wahine kumu, and my kumu was taught by, our hula line is all wahine. And so we do old-fashioned dancing, like you completely wave your hands like this, as opposed to more kane dancing. So neither is wrong. Neither is wrong. It's preference. It's preference. And so when I hear other people putting down other halau, that is what upsets me. That's where I feel like hula is, it's interpretation of the beholder. Like, you have nothing nice to say, don't say it. Just enjoy it. Just enjoy them sharing the story. So in the future, I know that their halaus are going back into researching again into the old-fashioned ways. So I hope in the future it does go back, that all halaus, all kumus see that different varieties of dancing is not inappropriate. And we just, like how we're diverse in our culture, we are diverse in hula. We kokuaku kokua mai, we help each other out. So that is what I hope will happen in the future towards hula.
I'd like hula to continue to teach the rest of the world about Hawaii, about our language and our people and our stories. But I think he can take that even one step further to teach the rest of the world about how to live. As an island society, we are fortunately locked in to these moku o Hawaii, these little islands in this Waiākea of Hawaii. And because of that, we have a different way of living, of relating to each other. We see each other a lot. These are not large islands. So that allows us to think about the quality of interactions and how we want to relate to each other, how we want to contribute to and sustain what we have here. Not rely on the rest of the world, but maybe the product that we export is that sense of connection and how you live as people who want to be connected to each other, want to utilize all the resources that are around you. So sustainability, not just in agriculture and in trying to cherish the land, but sustainability of how we can live as diverse people in a way that make sure you support each other, and that honor and celebrate the differences, because we can learn from them. It doesn't change who we are, but the fact that we know that somebody else thinks differently, has other values, I think is incredibly important and a gift we can give the rest of the world. If people will just look to this way of living in Hawaii, so many of the challenges, it's never saying that you're going to wash the differences away. It's just the opposite. You're going to bring the differences into focus and cherish them as differences. Yeah? And we don't all have to be the same. It's hooray, we are different. What a beautiful tapestry, what a beautiful print, you know, that we're making. A kapa with many different designs we're making. So I'm hoping that that will be the future through our mo'olelo that are captured in hula. Teach the rest of the world the way it can be.
I just wanted to thank everyone who participated in this interview, and I hope that you, the viewers, have learned something new about the Hawaiian culture and hula. A hui ho!